All right, there we go. Recording in progress. Anyway, so Bonnie, introduce yourself.
I'm Bonnie from Oregon.
And Renee, you got to tell them where
Uh,
you're from.
from Oregon.
Yeah, she's from Bonanza, and it's a wonderful place out there. And in Francisca, I don't know if she's there or not. Linda Nyseth
From Oregon.
and Jeannie
Kansas.
and Maja.
Oregon, Marcia,
Okay.
Oregon.
Yeah, Marcia and Engen. You have to
Yeah, I'm
introduce
from
yourself.
Oregon.
Yeah. And Marion.
Klamath Falls, Oregon.
All right. Well, did anybody I miss? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen, and if somebody will just tell me if you can see it, because once I get on there, I don't know.
I can see it.
Yeah. I
Okay.
see it
Sit.
also.
All right. So I just want to tell you that I got to move my screen around a little bit here. I got somebody right on top of the. Anyway, so I appreciate Ann Engen, and she's actually on here, and Sally Wyffels are the ones that actually wrote this, and I thought it was an excellent lesson. And so is what I did is I just took and added a PowerPoint to it. They had a few pictures they passed around, and I thought, what a wonderful, wonderful place. And by the way, this is on my bucket list of a place to visit. If I wanted to go to Europe, I think I'd rather go here than anywhere right now. And I know it's not necessarily Europe, but we're gonna get started here. And please stop me if you need if you got any comments or anything like that, or questions. And by the way, I will apologize ahead of time. I cannot pronounce most of these names. So if somebody wants to help me out, that's fine. And if you don't want to help me out, that's fine too. We'll just kind of get through it. But I think it's just beautiful. I got lots of pictures. And it just says Iceland is a land of glaciers, geysers, glaciers, volcanoes, and rough hues coastlines, a landscape full of legends. And I really like the things on the legends where the northern lights shine, an island country with poor soil, few forests, and isolated from the rest of the world. And if you look at it, you can see it on the map, and we're going to look at it on the map right there. And those are a few of the small pictures there. And I've got bigger pictures of it when I get on in the presentation a little bit like there. And there's a world map of it, and you kind of get a relationship of where Iceland is. And you can see that it actually cuts across the Arctic Circle there. Part of it is actually above the Arctic Circle. And I think that's in one of the other pictures right there. And it's a very, very small country. And something I always find interesting about Iceland is there's not very much ice there. There's a lot of green. And Greenland, which is actually the one up above here, is actually mostly ice. So it's kind of interesting the way it got named. And then you can see the island kissing the Arctic Circle. And you can see the Arctic Circle up there, and you can imagine what the climate is like. And we're going to talk about that. Ann and Sally did a wonderful job on this, and we're gonna go through this. And basically, I give them credit. They did all the work, and I did all the fun stuff. And you can see all these fun names down here that I can't pronounce. I can get Reykjavik, and I got that one, and that's kind of the capital city. And we're just going to go through some slides, and I'm just going to kind of go through them a little bit. And I just want you to take a minute and just look at them. And this is Reykjavik, and some of the mountains in the back
Beautiful.
like that. Go ahead.
It's very beautiful.
It is. It's a very, very beautiful one there. And it's got some wonderful scenery and so forth. And I went on the internet, and I actually had a lot of fun just digging out all these pictures. And it just shows some of the geysers and the volcanoes and so forth like that. And basically,
You
Iceland,
what?
I've learned a lot since then, is that Iceland is actually they are almost 100% electric energy, and they get all that electric energy from all the geothermal they have. They have geothermal everywhere, but basically they're sitting on volcanoes. They could be gone when they had a big eruption. Just some of the waterfalls. I just thought they're beautiful, beautiful pictures. By the way, this PowerPoint is actually on the Oregon FCE website, along with the lesson that Ann and Sally put together. We'll talk about some of these structures a little bit later, what they mean, and they're just not rocks out there. They're something special. They're very famous for their horses. And by the way, they're little short horses, and they got long hair and so forth, and there's some history on that. Another one of the geysers. You can kind of see why you like to be there. I have never been there, but my son has been there, and I'll tell you the story on that when we get to the end of it there. Lots and lots of hot water. Beautiful scenery there.
Oh my God.
I think the contrast there is beautiful. And I like the way the little lake is down here. See, I'm a fisherman. I'd want to go down there and see if there's any fish in it. And if something, what do you notice that there's hardly anything that you see there? What is lacking in there? They don't have any what?
Trees.
They don't have any trees.
Trees.
The trees are not around very, very often. We're going to talk about that and just some more other. I just think what a beautiful place. And then just a little history, and again I give credit for this. It says they're ruled by the King of Norway and the King of Denmark. They lost 1/3 of their population of the Black Plague. They lost another third of it to the bubonic plague, and more to smallpox. So you can see that they had their problems too, with the Black Death and so forth that came across Europe. And anybody remember how that was being spread? It was the fleas on the mice, on the rats. It wasn't actually the rats themselves, but it was the fleas that were on there that were biting people and contaminating them there. It says, yet this little country is known for having some of the happiest people in the world, plus some of the healthiest. And what makes this country so amazing? And you got some little pictures there of these are traditional dress. And I have talked to several people that have gone there, and usually people don't dress like that on a normal day. They dress just like you and I would. All right, a little trivia quiz, and we'll see if you can still remember these. True or false? Iceland is about the same size as the state of Oregon. True or false?
Oh my gosh.
Who can answer that?
True.
Okay, Ann says true. Anybody else have another thought about it?
It's false.
It's false. So now we got a true and a false. Okay. It's actually the answer is false. Iceland is small. It can actually fit inside Oregon with room to spare. Oregon is 2.5 times larger than Iceland. It is about the size of Kentucky. Reykjavik is the capital city, and that's the only name I can pronounce there. Okay. Why are Icelanders heritage 40% blank and 40% 60% blank and 40% blank? Anybody ideas what those might be? Ann should have her cheat sheet out.
No, I don't.
Been too long ago, Ann, this has been 7 years ago when you wrote this lesson. Okay, Icelandic people are 60% or more Nordic. Norse are Viking, and 40% Scottish and Irish. Vikings rowing small boats in good weather could reach Iceland in a week. Harsh weather would take longer. They could detour, and by the way, I like the way the detour is spelled there. That's the European style, to stop in Scotland or Ireland to take hostages. Settlers brought their language, Old Norse, then Norway has evolved into modern Icelandic. Iceland has how many active and inactive volcanoes, but only how many active ones? Any ideas?
2 active ones.
2?
Yeah, active
All right.
volcanoes. I don't know. I'm guessing.
No, us that live in Oregon, we have the Cascade Range, and we have several volcanoes in that Cascade
Yeah.
Range. And we've only had one that was active in recent time. And we know that was Mount St. Helens, but a lot of those are sitting there just kind of waiting for time.
I'm
And
gonna say
it has
50.
130 active
Oh my
and inactive
gosh.
volcanoes, but the country is in the middle of top of two tectonic plates and has over 30 active volcano systems running through the
Gosh.
island. And when you think about it, it's the whole country is sitting on on volcanoes. And that's one reason why they have it on there. And by the way, I did a presentation recently on electric cars, and they use a lot of electric cars, but they get all of that free electrical energy from their geothermal. Iceland has no real highways except and I'm just going to do this right here. Iceland has no, except to the Keflavik Airport, which is from the capital city. Okay, blank is related to Icelanders through Dutch and Norwegian royalty. And this was actually done. Can you remember this one, Ann? Who is a celebrity or a person or somebody we'd all know? Any guesses? I thought this was a good quiz that they came up with. Donald Trump
Oh,
Really?
related to most Icelanders through his Dutch and Norwegian royalty.
hmm.
And from late June to early July, Iceland has the midnight sun, which means,
Sunny all day.
yep. Well, my daughter lives in Fairbanks and she can relate real well to this right here. It says from late June to early July, Iceland has midnight sun, which means 24 hours of sunlight. In December, they endure 22 hours of darkness and 2 hours of twilight. And that's
Oh,
kind
wow.
of I think that's very similar to what Fairbanks, Alaska does. And Fairbanks, I know in Fairbanks they have a baseball game that it's on the 21st of June or whatever the summer equinox is, solstice is there, and it starts at midnight and they don't allow any kind of lights. Okay, in August the average temperature is, and in January the highest temperature is 36 degrees, the lowest temperature is 18 degrees. Any ideas? In August the average temperature is 50 to 55 degrees. And that's one of the reasons why you can see that things don't grow real well. And trees actually need a little more warmth than that. In January, the highest temperature is 36 degrees, lowest temperature is 18 degrees. Iceland has maritime temperature climate, snow, sleet, hail, rain, and often high winds. And our son, who actually went there, he'll testify of the winds.
Hmm.
And I thought this was really nice, and I appreciate input. Who do folks
Who
and
do?
why did people build small houses, even built small churches to convert them to Christianity? It means the hidden people. They're little elves and trolls, part of the Icelandic legends. Large fallen rocks and fields are said to be frozen trolls.
Oh.
The smell present in Iceland isn't from the sulfur, it's from the smell of the tiny, dirty baths. Trolls' dirty bath water. Of course, it is said to be with a sly smile and a wink. So that smell is not sulfur, that's their dirty bath water.
Sure.
And these are some of the little houses that they build for them.
That's cute.
True or false? Iceland has been occupied by British troops and U.S. troops.
True.
True.
Okay. It's true. Iceland has been occupied by both British troops and U.S. troops. Iceland has no military of its own, but it played a big role in World War II. A lot of it because of its location. The capital, Reykjavik, has and somebody's going to have to help me on this, Paleological Museum. Anybody know what that means?
No.
Well, I didn't know
Yep.
either, and Anne must know because she's over there giggling. I can't believe that Anne put this in her presentation, but I didn't take it out, Anne. I thought about deleting these slides. The answer is true. The capital, Reykjavik, has many interesting museums. Among them is the Icelandic Museum. There you will find a
Just say
collection of over
penis and that,
200 penises from all over the land and sea animals, including 16 types of whales, 7 types of seals and walruses, a polar bear, and even one Homo sapien.
Wow.
Men.
uh-huh.
Shame
It's a
on
very
Ann.
popular.
Oh my gosh.
I know, Ann. I can't believe it.
Look at this guy. Oh. Now they're showing him. Great.
Okay, enough of that. I think that's Ann giggling right there. Since the occupation of Iceland during World War II and beyond, small, quiet Iceland was an independent, solvent nation ruled by the King of Denmark. It had no military, but the capital was the biggest city and had over 70 police officers. But who had their sights on Iceland and why? Great Britain and the United States knew that ships and convoys crossing the North Atlantic needed protection from the German submarines. Also, a large airfield should be built on the island. And life in Iceland is about to change. And we're going to actually see the airstrip, or at least parts of it, in the very end of the presentation. September 1939, Germany invades Poland. German sub sinks a passenger ship near Iceland. 1940, German soldiers march into neutral Denmark. Government is overthrown. Britain offers Iceland for help, but will need houses and buildings. Iceland says no. Iceland declares independence from Denmark and asks the United States for recognition. 1940, May of 1940, Winston Churchill insists on British military land in Iceland anyway. 1944, British ships anchor in the harbor of Iceland's capital. Soldiers disable radio communications. German citizens arrested to delay news leaks. And Iceland's prime minister tells people not to interfere with the troops, treat them as guests. Icelandic government says its neutrality has been flagrantly violated. British promise compensation and will not interfere with Icelandic business and leave at the end of the war. And Germany invades France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. 1940, I kind of like the way that they put this history in here too, that you see that how critical Iceland is when it gets in that area. Norway surrenders to Germany. British ships leave Iceland as they are now needed to defend Great Britain. Iceland invites the United States to protect their country. There are now more soldiers in Iceland than the adult Icelandic men. And Iceland asked for American financial assistance for a road, bridge, and public maintenance. People are put to work helping the soldiers build airstrips, bigger ports, and hospitals. October 41 through October 42, troops working with Icelanders battle heavy seas, high winds. And by the way, that's something you'll find out. The wind blows there a lot. Constant rain to unload tons of cargo and vehicles in months of darkness. January of 1944, Iceland becomes a republic. U.S. troops have a leave. 1949, Iceland joins NATO. During occupation, 332 Icelandic women marry soldiers. One of them, Shep, rises.
Fritz Stein daughter.
Yeah.
Fritz Stein daughter.
Okay. And the United States accepts NATO agreement to be responsible for the defense of Iceland. 2006, U.S. troops leave Iceland. Threat shifted away from the North Atlantic. And now the U.S. is reopening its former Icelandic military base in Keflavik. It is midway between the United States and Europe for patrolling waters off of Great Britain, Iceland, and Greenland. Okay. Enough a little bit on the history. Now we're going to get into some really fun things, and that I love their costumes, and that's when I did the one on Malaysia. Wonderful. I love traditional costumes and so forth. Icelandic costumes is collectively known as Iceland is in PJ. and I'll let it at that, has enjoyed popularity since the 19th century during the fight for independence. Since 2001, the national costume is regulated by the National Costume Authority. So I guess you have to get permission to wear what you're going to wear. It preserves the correct techniques of making them, instructs people how to wear each costume. Women's costumes, and by the way, you're going to see some bigger pictures here. And the women's costume is black woolen clothing commonly worn by women. It usually consists of a twill skirt and a jacket, fine knitted woolen yarn with a black tail cap. It is believed the article of clothing was invented when women desiring simpler working clothes started to use male articles of clothing. And this includes the tail cap, and I just absolutely love dresses like this, Bonnie. That's a hint. Okay. This was originally, it was a jacket with a single row of buttons. The up Looktor, the bodice could be colored in bright colors as red, blue, and often black, all in woolen fabric. And there's some little bigger pictures. Don't you think those are pretty? In men's, the most considered traditional costume consists of woolen breeches and trousers, and usually double button vest and a double button jacket called a trivea. On the head is a tail cap. The costume is usually black, navy blue, or dark green, although the vest, which is usually brighter, such as red in some regions, is used as white wool instead of the dark colors. And there you see some of the men's traditional. I don't think they're near as pretty as the women's dress. Children's costume. For the child, their costumes do not differ from the adult version except in size. The girls are given shorter skirts in the adult version. Men and women in traditional costumes. A family. Shoes. Today, modern shoes can be worn with national costumes. Traditionally, shoes were made of either fish or sheepskin with woolen inlets and worn with the costume. You can sure see those shoes wouldn't last very long if you're walking very far. Traditions and folklore. And I like this. It says Icelanders have several unique holidays and celebrate the most common ones in special ways. Many of their festivals are related to ancient Norse traditions, while others tie into Christian calendar. It's interesting when they start blending together how things happen. There are numerous festivals that take place throughout the year. A few of these are Christmas time to the 12th and 9th. During the Christmas celebrations, Icelanders decorate their interior and exterior of their house extensively with lights of many colors in an effect to brighten up the dark winter days and nights. Traditional Icelanders observe a Christmas fast and end the fasting on December 23rd, Saint Porkarel's Day. The Icelanders will eat purified shark to symbolize the ending of the fast. Shops are open very late for many who leave the Christmas buying frenzy until the last minute. Sounds like the United States. For many, this signifies the beginning of Christmas. So there's just some Christmas is celebrated on December 24th, promptly at 6 p.m. in the evening. Traditional dishes include smoked lamb, smoked pork, pickled red cabbage. Presents are opened after Christmas dinner, which is a fairly formal affair. And we got a little picture there of some of the things. Instead of Santa Claus, Iceland has the 13 Yule lads. And these are interesting if you spend a little time studying about them. These 13 lads visit the fortunate Icelandic children over 13 days of Icelandic Christmas season. The children place a shoe in their bedroom window every evening. During the night, one Yule lad visits, leaving sweets and small gifts or rotting potatoes, depending on, that sounds like coal to us. Rotting potatoes depending on how that particular child has behaved on the preceding day. Each Yule lad has specific characteristics and will leave a gift to fit his characteristic. And there's some pictures of them, or what they probably think they are. Old Icelandic folklore state that every Icelander must receive a new piece of clothing for Christmas, or they find themselves in mortal danger. An enormous black cat prowls Iceland on Christmas Eve. It eats anyone who doesn't follow a simple rule of receiving a garment. This feline is known as the Christmas cat. And you spent a lot of time. Oop. Yeah, I got lost here. Oh, there we go. New Year's Day, Eve is celebrated with a gathering of family and friends on home and visits the local bonfire. Most Islanders buy their own fireworks and set them off at midnight to welcome the New Year's. January 4th is celebrated as the last day of Christmas, the 12th night. The occasion is marked by various fireworks displays, bonfires throughout the countryside. You see a huge bonfire here. It's kind of small, but you can see people over here lined up. Icelandic Republic Day, Icelandic's National Day of Independence, is June 17th. It commemorates the creation of Iceland as a republic in 1944. The day is also the birthday of the country's independent hero, John Sergensen's son. Midnight summer, the longest day of the daylight of the year. It is endowed with great mystical powers. According to Icelandic folklore, cows gain the power of speech for that night, and seals can take human form. Surely a tremendous, treacherous, magical time. Wonder what cows talk about. What do they talk about? What do you think cows talk about when they're talking? They probably talk about humans.
Probably, or the seals.
Yeah. Okay, elves and trolls. Polls taken over the years have shown that the majority of Icelanders believe in elves. These elves usually live in rocky areas, have magical powers, and cause trouble if someone tries to disturb their home. In some cases, bulldozers have reported to malfunction when trying to work on supposed elf site. This belief is so important that some people will actually call it to arbitrate with elves in their hopes of getting them to leave. There's some trolls. Trolls and elves. And we're going to talk about these elves and trolls frozen in time. So these aren't just rocks. These are actually elves and trolls that have been frozen. One final troll, Gavla, is the ogress who lives in the Icelandic mountains. She is a dreadful character described as part troll and part animal, and mother of 13 precocious boys, the Yule lads. She lives in the mountains with her third husband and her 13 children and a black cat. Thought it was interesting if you didn't notice the children in the pot here.
Yeah, that's cute.
Every Christmas, Gruva and her sons come down from the mountains. Gruva is the search for naughty children to boil in her cauldron, and the boys are in search of mischief. They can only capture children who misbehave, but those who repent must be released. Despite how strange the belief might be, it persists among most Icelanders and doesn't seem likely to go away anytime soon. I like that. Food. What kind of food do you guys like to eat? It says you've lived on a small island far out from the sea. What would you eat most of? So what's on the Iceland's menu? Very fresh cod. Lots of fish remains on the island's biggest export and favorite food. Very dried fish. Think fish jerky. Put butter on top to soften it, chew, and bite thoroughly. Salted fish, completely covered in salt to preserve it. First, wipe away the salt, then soak the fish for hours or even 2 days before eating. And minke has never been considered endangered, eaten raw or cooked. The meat is similar to beefsteak, but leaner, softer, and not fishy tasting. Fish stomach. It is stuffed with fish liver and boiled with rye. And Geller, which is cod tongues. Not tongues at all. It's a fleshy muscle behind and under the cod's tongue. Tasty, cooked, au gratin, just boiling them, not so much. Puffin. And by the way, I should have put a picture of a puffin in there. Anybody know what a puffin is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're in Alaska too.
Yeah, they're little birds.
Uh-huh.
We're going to
They
see
got
some pictures
pretty
of,
beaks and yeah.
yeah, a black and white seabird with brightly colored bill, either boiled in milk, sauce, or smoked. It is a delicacy found in many Icelandic restaurants.
Mm.
Hot Springs rye bread, dry, slightly sweet dough put in a special wooden cask in the ground near the hot spring. You can pick up your baked bread every day. And there's your
There
puffin.
they are, puffins.
Yeah, they almost look too cute to eat. Okay. Hankirkat, which is lamb roast, hung and twice smoked but not roasted. Thinly sliced and served with potatoes, white gravy, and green peas. And then sheep's head, a favorite smoked and cooked main dish. The whole head is eaten except for the brain. Eyes, cheeks, and tongue are tasty. It is the presentation that throws you off. Most markets and drive-throughs sell it. Blood pudding. Sheep's innards stuffed with blood and fat sewn together and then boiled. Served with
Ew.
head and many times sweet rice puddings. Mmm.
No.
Okay, sour ram testicles, a recipe that's rarely made now. And skyr, a popular traditional Icelandic food. Icelandic food. It is a low-fat dairy product, rich and creamy, resembling yogurt, but it is different. Now found in Whole Foods. And didn't you bring some of that? You brought some of that to the presentation, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you brought us.
Yes, I think we did.
You brought some samples of some of this food. Okay, taxation in Iceland. I'm going to tell you before we even start on this, we are going to be thankful for the taxation that we have in the United States when you see this. And you'll start to figure out why they get lots of stuff for free. Taxes in Iceland is levied by the federal government and the local communities. Iceland, similar to Scandinavian countries, it is a Nordic social democracy, but the government welfare spending is less than most other European countries. The country has an income tax which the Icelanders pay up through their employees. It's up to 8% of the Icelanders' gross income can be deducted for pension insurance, like Social Security. Their income tax rates ranges from 37 to 47%, which is a lot higher in the United States. It is a progressive tax, as is our taxes. Local communities, because you're going to find out you have lots of taxes. Local communities rate is 14.5%, and this is when the lesson was written, and is collected by municipal authorities. In the United States, we have a voluntary compliance where we pay our own taxes. U.S. income tax rate ranges from 10 to 39%, depending on your filing tax status and income level. Oregon income taxes range from 5 to 9.9%, depending on the filing status and income. Iceland's total tax rate is 59 to 62% plus 11% added tax. And if you look at that, that means it's anywhere from about 60 to 70. Well, that's going to be 75%. And I know I was reading an article about a school teacher, and school teachers get paid a huge amount of money. They get paid like $100,000, but their take home is $30,000.
Jeez.
Iceland's corporate tax is 20%, one of the lowest in the world. In the United States, it can be as high as 38.9%, but businesses can claim deductions. Iceland does have a value-added tax similar to the national sales tax. The standard rate is 11%. Both the U.S. government and Oregon do not have a value-added tax or sales tax. healthcare in Iceland. And you're going to find out that they have universal health care. And most people don't pay for the health care if you read like that. And the reason why is because it's paid through all the taxes. Iceland has universal health care. Their system is paid by taxes and service fees. It is administered by the Ministry of Welfare. There is very little private health care insurance and no private hospitals. This public service is heavily funded through taxation to support the general public in order for the population to have equal access to the healthcare system. And I have done a little bit more research on that. And the problem is if you have something really serious, they don't handle it. There's a lot of people that go out of Iceland to take care of some major problems they have. And the United States is one of them that they go to. Healthcare providers fall into legally defined categories of clinics, institutions, university, hospitals, or teaching hospitals. This care includes personal assistance and dementia care, including nursing homes and even child care. Interesting note, hospital professionals and doctors are salaried employees and are paid through the hospital budgets. And by the way, if you find out, and I don't know if it's in here, doctors are not paid very much, so they have a hard time finding doctors and nurses. Iceland has a relatively small population. It has 6 regional hospitals and 16 clinics or care homes. The main hospital is located in Reykjavik. Okay. Any questions or comments on their health system? I will tell you too that they're also a country like a lot of the Scandinavians where they have the healthcare like that. If you get to a certain age, they consider that you've lived long enough and they don't do much for you. A ripe old age like 62.
God, I don't know what happened to your voice, but it went
Yeah,
really,
My
your
voice
volume
okay?
went down.
My volume went down.
yeah,
Oh, is it okay now?
right.
That's okay.
Well,
Yeah,
I had a jet fly over.
me
Oh,
too. Yeah.
I've got jets flying over me over and over again. I think it might be muting it out a little bit. It says the Golden Circle, attractions to see in Iceland. This is something I'd love to go see. Iceland is famous for its diverse and unique geothermal landscape. It captures you from all directions. After arriving in Keflavik, the airport near Reykjavik, you don't have to look too far to see plumes of smoke rising from the ground, natural hot springs, waterfalls, bubbling mud pots, and erupting geysers. In fact, you see all of this in the Golden Circle tour. And if I win, I'd want to make sure I went on there. We'll enjoy 11 attractions. This tour usually requires about 4 hours of driving, and after you add the time you'll need it to enjoy each attraction, put aside a full day. And it's kind of hard to see on the map there. Stop number 1. Thingvellir National Park. The park is situated on the tectonic plate boundaries on the mid-Atlantic ridge. You see the rifting of the Earth's crust through the main faults and fissures in the ground. There's some waterfalls. By the way, when you see formations like that, it usually means there's a fault line there, especially right here. Anybody seen the San Andreas Fault in California? And that means the Earth right there is either moving towards each other or away from each other. Beautiful pictures. The national park is also a UNESCO Code Heritage Site. It was in 930 AD, the founding home of Thingi and the Parliament of Iceland. Many historical buildings are found in the park. 930 AD, the oldest parliament in the world. Stop number 2, geyser area, great geysers. Geysers from Icelandic verb gesha, to gush. The verb itself is Old Norse. Upon arriving in the geyser area, the smell of sulfur. And by the way, Oregon has several hot springs, and you'll smell the sulfur there is what hits you first. Pew. And multiple of bubbling hot poles are every direction. And a low running stream on your feet. Suddenly, in the distance, a huge jet of water appears and several feet of spring water upward. The geyser erupts every 4 to 8 minutes. You can see all the people standing around it. Kind of reminds me of Old Faithful in Yellowstone.
Mhm.
But they say Old Faithful isn't very high anymore.
No, it wasn't when we went there. I'd only seen it once, and it's
That's
also
not a
not.
good sign.
Yeah.
Oh,
Lots of geysers and hot springs and hot water. And stop number 3 and 4, the Gaufoss and Gomar waterfalls. Walking towards the Gaufoss waterfalls, you first hear it before you see it, and then you watch and wonder as the water vapor floats upward above the canyon's edge. At first sight, all you see can be made out of the ferocious waters that seemingly disappear into the abyss below. A huge cavern of water, 61 feet wide and gaseous, churns down the river below. Irma waterfalls, the highest waterfall in Iceland. What makes it so very unique in the trails that often goes behind the falls. The trail is well-developed loop trail. Both waterfalls are majestic and powerful. Prepare to get wet.
hmm. Hmm. Isn't it?
Stop number 5, Lake Myvakten and Ruferhosfjell. It is a volcanic lake on the east shore of the natural baths that are naturally heated by a nearby lagoon, where its mineral-rich waters, known for their geothermal caves, can to see and tour. It's a lava tube that is lightning to the adventurous tourist explorer.
Hmm.
Interesting formations.
Oh, those are trolls.
There's the trolls that are probably frozen there, probably being naughty.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm going to go back on that one right there. Yeah, what do you see in the background? You don't hardly ever see
Trees.
the few
Yeah.
trees. Because most of the landscape, you don't see any trees at all.
Mhm.
So, Ann, you can see it took me a long time to get all these pictures.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
pretty.
they're beautiful.
These are inside the caves, and if you notice, there's a person right there. Stops number 6 and 7 are the cliffs. And the cliffs are in the westmost point of Iceland is home to millions of birds, including puffins, razorbills, and gannets. It is the largest bird cliff in Europe. Take your binoculars to get close up at many, many birds.
That's high.
There's one of your little puffins. According to legend, it is a purified troll. Is that somebody going to help me on that one there? Hiksavarkar is a petrified troll who wanted to tear down the bells of Pine Laster Convent, but was caught by daylight and turned into stone. The less fun version is the story that he was a volcanic plug from the volcano which eroded by the ocean. The troll being turned to stone is more of a tune of the folklore of the Iceland, a more fantastic story. It's interesting, just out there in the rocks. Oregon has, and we all know that Oregon has a lot of interesting rocks on the coastline. Last stop, the capital city of Iceland is Reykjavik. We'll visit the four notable landmarks in a quick overview of the city. Reykjavik sits on the shore of the Smoky Bay and surrounded by towering mountain cliffs. We see no smoke rising from the households because of the geothermal heating it is used in their homes and commercial buildings of the city. And I have learned that Iceland also, you don't pay your power bill because it's all generated and it's all paid for through taxes. It's generated through geothermal. I find it interesting the different colors of the roofs on the houses. Reykjavik, immense white concrete church, big church on the hills, a star of thousands of postcards, dominates the skyline, is visible for miles around. Get a fantastic view of the city by taking an elevator to the top viewing area within the tower. The Lutheran church was built in 1945 and is 240 feet tall. Beautiful building. One of the most unusual buildings to see on our tour is the Harper Concert Hall and Conference Center. It opened in 2011. The design is influenced by Iceland's dramatic nature. It is also a gleaming sculpture reflecting both sky and sea. There are 4 concert halls within the building and has seating of 1,800. Beautiful building.
Yeah.
In stark contrast, the Harper Center is the Parliamentary House, and we've already seen that. It is a classic 19th century structure built in and I guess it's not. This is a different one. 1881 is one of the oldest stone buildings in Iceland. Today it is housed a museum and parliamentary debating hall. Last on our tour, and possibly the most famous site, is the Blue Lagoon. The lagoon has a geothermal spa and is one of the most visited attractions in Iceland. The spa is located on the lava floor and not far from the city. It is a man-made lagoon which is fed by the water output of the nearby geothermal poster plant and is renewed every 2 days. And you have to pay to go in it.
That's cool.
People typically spend an hour and a half to 3.5 hours in the healing waters. Current price, and obviously this has been a while back. The lagoon is a round trip transportation to Reykjavik, and admission is $133.85 and up. No wonder people want to stay for 3.5 hours. Okay, highlights of the museums in Reykjavik, and says you enter the Wells of Iceland exhibit, you'll feel quite small. Up above you, hanging the ceilings are the 23 life-size models of whales, including a humpback whale, a blue whale, and an orca.
Wow.
You see how small the people are.
That's cool.
Settlement exhibition is a perfect place to stop for the village age in downtown Reykjavik. A 2001 excavation revealed a 10th century Viking hall and the oldest evidence of Icelandic settlement, including a house and artifacts dating to before 871. Interactive display gives you a glimpse into the early lives of Viking settlers. There's your admission prices. You notice they take care of young people and old people. It's all those others that are in the middle that need to pay. Icelandic Punk Museum officially opened by punk rocker Johnny Rotten in 2016 to exhibit photos and objects related to the period of music 1980. Punk Museum is located in an abandoned public toilet facility.
facility. Oh yeah, there it is.
There's several museum that showcase the country's seafaring heritage, how important the fishing industry is to Icelandic history, survival, and how they won the Cod Wars. Maritime Museum and the Cultural House. I can see where you could spend quite a bit of time there, just
For the earphones,
visiting all of the different museums and so forth. Sega Museum is where history comes alive. The museum uses life-like replicas of Icelandic figures to recreate moments in everyday life,
It's done.
turbulent times in history. Replicas were created based on descriptions found in Viking Saga.
Hmm.
And this is just an example of some sod houses, and we'll talk about sod houses in a little bit. Sod houses. So here's the question. If you lived on a small island far out to sea, an island with poor soil, few forests, and long cold winters, what would you use to build a house?
You turn it down, it's
You could cut large bricks of grassy sod to build turf houses, barns, and churches. The open air museum has 20 vintage turf houses and buildings spread across a large green area. To build a turf house, first mark the small floor and remove the grassy turf. Scrape the floor smooth. Drag flat chunks of rock to your site and build 3 or 4 feet wide base or just 3 sides to your house. You may need to make a sled to hide the leather straps to pull rocks. You need to may need to make a sled to hide with leather straps to pull rocks or turf to your site. Using saws, blades, and flat shovels, cut grassy turf into large blocks and stack them with sticks between layers so the turf can air dry. On top of the rocks, stack turf bricks flat or on edge in a herringbone designed to form 3 sides of your house. Walls 3 or 4 feet thick, which I'm sure helps on the cold. Stack to edge of the roof line, smooth inside walls. Hunt for driftwood or birch trees to use as framing inside turf houses and roof. Lay turf on roof if possible. Best to build wooden front for a house with windows and a door. Half the population still lived in turf homes in 1910. By 1960, there were 234 inhabited turf homes in Iceland. Most were deserted in the next decade. I can always imagine what the smell would be like. It smells like dirt and grass.
Yeah.
So there's an example of some turf houses or sod houses. Excuse me.
It'd be really dark.
Yep.
Hmm.
And then we see a modern stone house. And that looks pretty typical for a lot of houses we know of. The Cod Wars of 1858 through 1975, who would have guessed that something as harmless as favorite fishing spots could incite wars between 2 nations in a way that is exactly what happened exactly what happened between Iceland and the United Kingdom during 3 Cod Wars, meaning fish wars. And there's even ongoing fishing wars now throughout the world. In the 1950s and 70s, the neighboring nations engaged in naval conflict over fishing waters and territorial claims. Iceland had extended its fishing water borders from 50 nautical miles to 200 nautical miles, and the United Kingdom believed them to be international waters. The problem, Iceland is very dependent on cod as its main export and the income for the fishing industry. Icelandic government increased the distance from its mainland to include rich fishing waters, also used by the United Kingdom. Fishing trolleys from both countries mixed in the fishing area. The British government reacted to the change in Icelandic boundaries by ordering warships to protect their fishing nets. This is what happened over the next 3 decades. British ships fired upon Icelandic fishing boats and patrols. Icelandic patrols fired on British vessels. Trawlers, tugboats, and frigates were rammed. Fishing nets were cut. Each side lost 1 man. 200 nautical miles is now the sea zones prescribed by the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea. If you lived on the most precious gems, if you lived on a small island far out to sea, you'd probably end up marrying your neighbor. The most precious genes. Iceland population of 332,000 is 90% pure Icelandic. Their genealogical database goes back 1,100 years. Most Icelanders can trace their lineage to a single Viking settler. This unique gene pool has brought neurologists and geneticists Carrie Stophenson home after 20 years abroad, found a company called Decode, which is the ambitious goal of mapping genome of the entire country. A genome is a set of your DNA, the chemical compound that contains genetic instruction that tells how our bodies work, how our bodies function. More than 150,000 Icelanders have donated their blood samples to this project, but not all Icelanders wish to participate in this double-blind project. When researchers find a gene mutation or variant, it is easy to trace. Decode discovered a variant a few years ago that confers protection against Alzheimer's disease. It is a rare gene variant found in about 1% of the Icelandic population. And if you carry this variant, you're almost completely protected against Alzheimer's disease. And we wish we all had that. The next step is to replicate what the genetic variant does to the body in the form of medication to protect the health of others. Trials are underway on drugs based on the Alzheimer's variant, as well as new cardiovascular drug by Engen of California, who purchased the company Decode in 2012. Northern Lights of Iceland.
That's gorgeous.
Whales of Iceland. This Arctic hedge, started in 1996, is located on one of Iceland's most remote northern villages. The Arctic hedge is a colossal piece of stone constructed that, when finished, will make Stonehenge look like amateur hour. Okay, Iceland is an island gem surrounded by ice, cold water, and bathed by the northern lights. Hardy, creative people who endured volcanoes, plagues, lots of traditional building materials, and occupations by foreign governments. They've harnessed bubbling water in springs to heat their homes. They enjoy low crime rate and unarmed police. Most sweet of all, they share this land with elves, trolls, and talking cows. And I just want to say, in 2017, our son was stationed in Sicily, and they were having a world meeting there in Sicily, and the United States had to move, the United States and all the other ones had to remove all of their warplanes, and that's where they sent them, was from Sicily to Iceland. And my son was actually in charge of making sure the planes got there. And quite a change in temperature between Sicily and that's Mike Teeples, our man in charge of moving the U.S. planes from Sicily to Iceland. May of 2017 World Summit in Sicily. Quite a change in temperatures. 90 degrees in Sicily, 25 degrees in Iceland, and lots of wind. Okay, got any questions or comments or?
That was nice. I enjoyed, I'd like to go there too.
Well, then let's just go ahead and do it.
Yeah. Sit in
Now,
that bath,
there's
that
one
water,
reason,
3.5 hours. Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I really appreciate Anne, and you see Anne on there, Ann Engen, she's the one that actually wrote the lesson. I hope I did it justice, Anne,
yeah,
Good
she did a
presentation.
very good job.
except I can't pronounce most of the words.
But there's one thing I wanted to say. There's a reason there's not very many trees in Iceland. The Vikings came and they cut most of the trees down to build their structures. And to plant trees now, it's so hard.
Yeah, and they grow really slow in that kind of climate too.
Hmm.
Well, has anybody got anything? I've got a lesson scheduled for next month, and I'm gonna look and see what that is. I think I got it down here. I don't have a title. I know it's on plants, and it's by a gal named Linda. So I've got one, a really good one, and I'll be sending out the invitation on that pretty soon. I appreciate everybody coming. And by the way, I only have one other person. I have Rebecca Peterson, who's on, I see. Her daughter has volunteered to do one on Venice. And I don't know if
Nice.
that's going to go or not. I think she's looking to unmute so she can tell me. Oh, is she going to do it, Rebecca?
We'll get it done. I
She'll
think
get
it'll
it
be
done.
fun.
Even if mom has to help her a little, huh?
That's right.
Yeah.
And she is a young one.
Yeah. How old is she?
Yeah, she'll be 14.
13?
14.
14. She'll be 14. So, hey, we'll get some youth into this a little bit.
Oh, that's
Well,
nice.
thank you guys very, very much. I appreciate you being here. And
Thank you.
again, this will be recorded and it'll be on the Oregon FCE Zoom page, Zoom lesson page, and I'll send out the stuff. And also, if you're interested in the lesson or you're interested in the PowerPoint, we can get that to you. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to stop the recording, and you guys can talk about me if you like.
Good job, Scott.
Thank you.